Okay, hello Renu. Welcome. So again, just a reminder, by the time you're hearing this, it's a 30-second delay. Hi Laiba. I got 3 people watching. Who's the third one? Say hi, please. So the exam ones, again, Renu, remind me, just write out in the comments, will be Renu, Laiba, Winning, Ray, Sherwin, 5, right? Hello Cheryl, and I hope Shireen is watching at the same time. Cheryl, let me know in the comments whether Shireen is watching at the same time. I've got 7 people watching right now. Don't know who the other 4 are. Say hi so I can take attendance, please, if you're a student. Hello, Winning. Okay, hopefully your internet can hold up this time. Hello, Clarence. Okay, Naomi, hello. Cheryl, you still have to let me know whether Shireen is watching with you at the same time. Am I missing anyone else? Right, and Clarence as well. Okay, got it. Yep. So why can't Sherwin make a comment on her own? She still doesn't know how to. So Sherwin, if you're watching this, so again, you've got to watch it in full screen, okay, either on your laptop or your phone. So once you have the whole thing taking up your phone, then you can post your comments, at least I believe. Okay, got it. Clarence, you're taking the exam as well. Good. Ray, if your sister takes sociology, you can tell her to sit in on this class as well. I believe she does, but yeah. Okay, looks like everyone is here. Okay, thank you, Cheryl, for the confirmation that Shireen is watching with you. Showing. There's always a problem, isn't there, Renu? There's always a problem with Sherwin. I'm kidding. I'm just messing. You're fine. You're a good student. You're well behaved. Sinu doesn't take. Sherwin, Winning, Renu, Laiba, Clarence, Reagan. Okay. All right. I think that's everyone. All right. Before I begin, yeah. So I'm just gonna leave this on here because that way I know later when all this is over, when I gotta edit it, I only edit after this thing is up. This VisiTutor online thing. Anyways, just want to talk about the sociological trends, right? So, seriously, this is a ripe time to be learning all of these things that we're learning right now, be it economics. If you guys just pull up, some of the news, see what the central banks are doing, see what the governments are doing, right? Malaysia is rolling out billions in ringgit. They have to borrow money to try and give to businesses and to individuals and households just to make sure they have enough income to survive this crisis, right? That's for econs, for business studies, a lot of them are deciding now, right, having to make these tough business decisions, whether to stay alive, and if they do, how do they get financing? All right, we studied this before. Financing is the lifeblood of any business, right? No cash coming in from no business because customers are not allowed out of their homes. All right, so what do? Do they close shop? What happens to all their loans? What happens to their employees, right? All these tough decisions. And obviously for sociology as well, we are seeing many of these things that we study in your textbook literally jump out of the pages and play out in real life. Things like the digital divide, right? Now, I'm not going to mention names, but you and I both know. We have seen right here within VisiTutor how those who cannot bridge that digital gap, either they don't have internet or they have very weak internet signals or there's signals are not strong, right? So these factors leave them at a disadvantage. There are many university students right now who, even though the universities made the move online, they cannot partake. Why? Because they all went back to their kampongs and they don't have strong internet signals to partake in their daily lessons. So they're left behind. This is the manifestation of the digital divide. We see that here even among the teachers at VisiTutor, right? And the students as well. Those who cannot connect in this virtual classroom are left behind. Even jobs are at stake, right? Your education, your life chances are at stake. You look at the IGCSEs, Cambridge, they had to postpone their May-June exams, all right? Why? Because of all this. Their lives are disrupted. So all these things that we're studying now in economics, business studies, sociology, this is a ripe time for you guys to open your laptops, switch open your phones, stop looking at your TikTok videos. I mean, although there are some interesting sociological trends there as well, but look at the news from official sources and see what that's doing to society, what's that doing to the economy, what this coronavirus is doing to businesses, the business landscape, right? Tremendous disruption. Okay, and I think there are a lot of lessons to be had here, not just on a personal level, but also on the macro level. But your formal education must continue. So with that said, okay, today we're going to continue with your sociology lessons, and we're going to pick up from Unit 2. That's culture, identity, and socialization, as stated in the text below. Sorry, just real quick, I forgot to ask this earlier. How many of you do not have your textbooks? If you do not have your textbook, just make a comment below or off to the right, wherever, or your right will be on this side maybe. Yeah. Okay, let me know. Say, Mr. Han, I do not have my textbook. That way I kind of know what kind of crowd I'm dealing with here, okay? So, in this unit, we're going to talk about, Jasmine gives me a question mark. Right, so Jasmine, you're here. You can watch this along with your brother if you want to. I think it'd be good for you. Otherwise, it's fine. We can pick this up when you move to level 3, which may be delayed because of the coronavirus. Okay, so Unit 2, Culture, Identity, and Socialization. I hope you have your textbooks open. If you do not have a textbook, let me know in the comments. Okay, but the idea is that we go about finding out many key lessons or many key elements in sociology. Okay, for example, why do you think you are the person that you are? How did you came to? How did this identity come to be? Right, and is it from the collective identities of all these individuals that makes up the identity and culture for a particular society? Right. So all these things. Right, culture is, well, I'll pull out the definition a bit, is the way of life at a personal level, but also at a societal level, right? Identity is who you are, and why is it that you think you are who you are? And do other people think you are who you think you are? See what I did there, right? Your identity in your own eyes or in the eyes of others, right? And then what is the process? How do we come about building this culture or building this identity that is socialization, right? So we'll explore all those concepts in this unit. Okay, Cheryl doesn't have the textbook. Okay, that's fine. Clarence doesn't have it. Okay, Naomi doesn't have it. Okay, so this is where I can pull it up on screen. Okay, so let's start with some basic definitions here. So again, you've got culture. That's the way of life of a society. Okay, so it can be as simple as, for example, whether you take your shoes off before you enter someone's home, right? In many Western countries, you do not, right? In the US, UK, you don't. It's normal, it's expected for you to wear your shoes into someone's homes. Of course, you dust it off a little bit on the doormat outside before you step in, but you still keep your shoes on, right? Here in Asia, big no-no. You do not wear your shoes into the home, right? And then beliefs are statements that people hold to be true. So, for example, say if a society has a belief that, oh, the government can take care of them, then many of or many aspects of their daily lives will be based on that belief. Or if a society believes that, oh, you will succeed or you can succeed if you just work hard, right? Then if there's that belief that's prevalent among that within that particular society, then their way of life, their culture, their day-to-day activities will reflect that belief. Okay? It can be religious beliefs, it can be cultural beliefs, it can be economic beliefs, whatever, okay? If you hold that statement to be true, that society tends to act it out. Okay, so that's the difference between those key terms. So I give you a very pertinent culture or a deviance in culture that's so prevalent right now. So for example, in Asia, right, you're expected to wear face mask. It's a precaution, right? And so I know in China from friends who currently live there, if you step outside, even though you're healthy, the culture is, right, the way of life is, you step outside, you wear the mask. I remember when I visited Hong Kong in about this was 2014, 2015, if I'm not mistaken. 2015, early 2015, right? You walk around and you still see people wearing masks, right? Be it at the airport, shopping malls, out in the streets, right? As soon as you're in the public eye, they just have those masks on. Not everyone, but there was still a noticeable number. Why? Because the SARS episode from 2003 was still prevalent in their minds. So when I asked them, well, why are people still wearing masks here? They're just afraid that something like that might happen again, right? So that's their culture over there. So today, if you go to some of these countries, they still wear their masks, even though they're healthy, right? Now, if you go to Western countries, US, France, right, parts of Europe, UK, it's the opposite, total opposite. You only wear a mask if you're sick, right? So if people see you with a mask, they stay away from you, like they shun you. It's like, oh, this person must be sick. They're wearing a mask, right? Totally different perspective there on just a simple piece of cloth, right? Different cultures, and to a certain extent, different beliefs as well, okay? To the point where even healthcare providers, like nurses, doctors, in the US, I've heard this from I don't know if this is true of everywhere in the US or every hospital in the US, but I'm in a WhatsApp group with a friend who is a nurse out in California. She said the same thing. So they're actually discouraged. The nurses are actually discouraged from wearing face masks. Why? They don't want to spook their patients out. Crazy, huh? Because here in Asia, you think the face mask is a precaution. You have the PPE, a personal protection device. You've got all these plastic face masks. And if you're a patient, you go there, you see that as a sign of comfort. Everyone's taken care of. In that particular hospital in California, it's different. They were apparently told, try not to use your face mask if you don't have to. Why? You don't want to spook people out. Why? Because when people see someone with a mask, they're afraid, right? Different culture. So a lot of fascinating insights we can glean during a time such as this, okay? So this is an example of the tremendous contrast in cultures, in beliefs, right? So now how did we get all these differences, right? Different beliefs, different cultures, different way of life, different identities, right? It's through this process we call socialization, and we'll get to that in a bit. Okay, so we have, again, just to bring this up again real quick, so we've got culture, the way of life of a society, belief, statements that people hold to be true. If you understand those two terms, those two key terms, post in the comments below saying, I understand what culture and beliefs mean. So again, just type out, I understand what culture and beliefs mean. Okay, then we'll move on. Okay, I'll give you guys about 30 seconds. If you are unsure, name more examples, ask me. This is where I will explain. Okay? Otherwise, we'll go on to the next set of next set of definitions and key terms. Still waiting for the comments to come through. I know there's a bit of delay. I want to make sure that you guys are responding, responsive, paying attention. Okay, all right, everyone understands. Okay, all right, good. All right, so let's move on to our next set of key terms here. Okay, I know this one's a bit smaller, but I trust that you guys can still see this. If not, it's in the textbooks, page 48. Okay, so now we have gone through culture, we've gone through beliefs. Okay, now we'll go through values and norms. Okay, let's start with norms first. Okay, so the behavior that societies expect of their members in particular situations. So those are norms, right? So again, we consider it to be a norm for people to be wearing face masks now. In the past, not so much the case, but in Hong Kong, even in 2015, it was not considered odd for someone to be walking around in public with a face mask either. So that was a norm, right? But in 2015, if you walking around in KL or Puchong with a face mask on, people will think, well, that's odd. Why? If you're sick, stay home, right? And definitely that was not the norm in the US and UK, but now it's becoming more of a norm for people to wear face masks when they go out. Okay, those are norms. Social interaction, well, that's an interesting one, because the definition here is that any situation in which two or more people have social contact with each other. Well, because of the coronavirus, would social interactions, the definition of social interaction had to be changed, right? So does it mean only do virtual interactions count, right? It's no longer just face-to-face, because face-to-face or physical social contact may come at a cost or come at a premium or be a lot scarcer after this episode, right? So maybe that definition is being rewritten even as we speak, maybe, right? Customs are similar to norm, but it's custom has more of a historical context to it. Okay, so when you use the word customs, it's like something that traditionally this particular society has been doing. Okay, normal is more like day-to-day stuff. Custom, that's norms that have been passed down from generation to generation, and it's got more of a historical significance to it. Okay, so some slight differences in those terms. Now, values, okay, are similar to beliefs in a sense that, but values is more about the behavior in terms of what is right or wrong. Okay, so for example, if let's say Asian societies, we tend to value respect for elders, right? So sending your grandparents or an elderly person to the old folks home, that is seen as taboo. No, right? Why? Because of that value of respecting your elders. As opposed to, say, in Western economies or Western countries, spending your final few years in an old folks home, even though you're healthy, that's seen as perfectly normal. If you cannot take care of yourselves, living independently, not really expected to move in with your kids, adult kids who probably have their children and other commitments, moving to an old folks home in Western countries, not unusual. Okay, so different values there. Or say the value of the family name, right, or family pride. That is still upheld here in conservative Asian societies, right? So that's why when there's a divorce, shame, taboo. We don't talk about it, right? Why? Because it's seen as going against the value of upholding the family name or the family pride. Whereas in Western economies, you're a divorcee, sure, no big deal, right? It happens so frequently over there, and it's perfectly acceptable to talk openly about it, right? Or being a single parent. So these are some examples of different values in different societies. Okay, so just make sure you are familiar with those key terms. So not just this one: culture, the way of life of a society, beliefs. I mean, again, there are some similarities, but just know the subtle differences, between culture, between beliefs, values, norms, customs. So customs, again, more historical. Norms is more day-to-day. Values is more about right and wrong. Values is what you just hold to be true. It's like beliefs is like a really strong conviction, okay? And then culture is a way of life. So all those definitions are there on pages 47 to 48. Okay. So, and then if you have a textbook, just know this. Look at that line. I want you to highlight that below point number 5. Values, beliefs, and norms, okay, are not always easy to separate in reality. Okay, I'll type it out for those of you who don't have values, beliefs. I can't type with. Hold on. And norms are not always. Write this down in a notebook if you don't have it. Okay. Okay, I want you to highlight this if you have a textbook. If you don't have this, if you do not have your textbooks, then go ahead and copy it down in a notebook. Okay, they all provide guidelines for how people should behave, but they differ in how specific or general they are. Okay, make sure you copy this down if you do not have your textbooks. Okay, yeah, or values are, the textbook, that great example. Personal space. Well, guess what? All of a sudden that has changed, right? In the past, some people may not value personal space as much. Now, you better darn well value personal space, right? 6 feet apart, 1 or 2 meters apart, right? So that the other person's droplets from their breath or their cough or sneeze will not be inhaled by you, right? Things like privacy as well. Privacy is another good one, right? So for example, in say China, right? They don't value their privacy as much. So when there's new technology that's rolled out, like face scanning or fingerprint scanning, or the government rolling out a social index score, like so, I think there are reports. I'm not sure if this is confirmed or 100% implemented yet, but I believe there is this thing called a social index score in China. So the government ranks you by your behavior. All right, so it can be as simple as if you go and buy diapers, baby diapers in the grocery store, you get a higher score. Why? Because the government wants to encourage people to have kids, right? But if they notice that you spend a lot of money buying liquor and other vices, then you might get a lower credit score. A lower social ranking score. Why? Because the government shuns that. And these scores apparently affect your ability to take out loans, your ability to even buy a ticket online, a train ticket online to go back home, right? So it's got far-reaching consequences, at least based on the reports I've read, right? So when these new technologies are rolled out, people seem to be a lot less flustered by it. They're like, it's okay. Government knows everything about it, and this can improve my life. I buy diapers, I get a better credit score, great, right? Whereas in, say, a country like the US, if you're going to even talk about rolling out a social index or social ranking score, whatever it's called, right, they will shun at it, right? They don't like the government knowing too much about their private data. Right? They want to stay private. So when there's found that Zoom has got a lot of security breaches, straight away the US, many US companies bar them. I mean, granted, that's a different story because there are a lot of sensitive issues and private company data that's discussed during company Zoom meetings. But we are fine because we're just talking about IGCSEs. But there is a different approach, different value when it comes to things like privacy, right? Western economies, Western societies, they are a lot more protective of their privacy. Many Asian countries, or some key Asian countries, not too bothered by it. Okay. All right. So these are some examples there. I hope you have all this written down. If you've got any questions, make sure you post them in the comments. Okay. Okay. We've got about 10 minutes left. So we'll go on to the next one then. So let's minimize this. I'll pull up this next one. Should I do this? Yeah, okay. Status is right there on page 48 as well. Now this is an important one, yeah, because this concept comes up in your exams quite often. Okay, let me just close this real quick. Okay. Yeah, speaking about Zoom and security. All right, so status. Now, guess what? You and I, we all have different statuses in society. Okay? Right now in this classroom, I've got a higher status than you. Why? Because society said so. Right? Your parents agreed to it, the staff at VisiTutor agreed to it, and you as students, you agreed to it. That I, the teacher, have elevated status, I've got authority, I've got power in this classroom setting. Right? I can tell you to do homework. I can tell you to do things that you don't want to do. Study, read your book. I don't want to, but the teacher said so. Right? Do your homework. Now, if let's say someone else who does not have a valid status in this classroom, say the street cleaner from downstairs, he comes up here and joins this YouTube stream and says, well, you do your homework, you are very likely going to disregard what the person said, or write me a 500-word essay. Right? You won't write a 500-word essay because the cleaner told you to. Okay, so we all have different statuses in the various settings that we encounter here in life. Okay, let me use this shot now, just to kind of change things up a little bit. Oh, hold on. Let me try to change the shot a little bit. This is A, this is B. Oh, hold on, give me a second. This is A. Okay. All right. Anyways, yay. Just to change things up a little bit, huh? Can you guys still see? Yeah, you guys can still see with this. Okay. So you guys have a status now as students, right? So what does it mean? Well, you are subservient to those with higher status, right? Teachers. And likewise, in your previous schools, right? If you're ranked according to age, or the older ones, right? The level 3 students have got higher status than those in level 1. Or all of a sudden, a student is appointed the head prefect. They just wear a tie. That's it. But what does the tie actually symbolize? What does that piece of cloth symbolize? Or the different uniform, the prefect's uniform. Or they might have a badge, a class president badge or whatever. It's just a piece of plastic with a pin on it. Right? But what does it symbolize? Higher status. What does the higher status symbolize? Potentially more power or more authority. Right? Prefect can report you to the teachers, or they can enforce rules. Right? So yeah, all these roles and statuses play a different part in society. Okay. So now this status can be two kinds. It can be ascribed, okay, as in somebody ascribed it to you, okay, or it's achieved, like you by your own efforts, you got it yourself. Okay, so for example, an achieved one would be like, say, if let's say I'm just a regular Joe right now, just a teacher, but then I have this fabulous idea. I start up this new business after the coronavirus crisis, or maybe during this crisis, and it meets a worldwide problem, and I become a billionaire because of this business, right? So all of a sudden, because of my hard work, I have achieved the status of a billionaire, a successful entrepreneur, and I can be a thought leader because now all of a sudden what I say has got a lot of implications for my millions of customers or my tens of thousands of employees. Right? All of a sudden I got more influence. How did I get that status? Achieved. Okay? As opposed to ascribed status, it's something that society gives you. So if let's say you were born the son of a king, right? A prince, you were born a prince, or you were born a princess, right? You didn't get that elevated status from anything that you did personally, right? But society then gave that to you. So, royalty. So we're going to treat you with deference, right? You are not a normal member, a normal citizen, right? Not a normal member of society. So those are some examples of how that can be achieved or ascribed status. Now, I would dare say that your overriding status, your main status right now is children, okay? Because you are not legally an adult, and that's your main status, children. So your life chances are affected as such. You cannot just go out there and just go work or start a business. I mean, you can, but it's a lot harder, right? And what's expected of you because of your status, you have to stay in school, study, right? Or you are submissive and subservient to your parents. Why? Because they're adults, they have authority over you. You are still financially dependent on them, right? So that overriding status has a large influence on you as a person right now. Okay, your gender can be a overriding status as well, right? Oh, male, treated a certain way, different life chances. Female, different life chances, different opportunities, different behavior expected of you, right? I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I'm saying that's what happens in society, okay? Especially patriarchal societies, we've studied that before, or very conservative societies, okay? All right, so know this term, your status, very important, okay? Tell you what, last but not least, because I've got something to prepare for in half an hour, okay, we will go through this. Hold on. Did my computer hang on me? Okay, so this next one. Okay, we're going to go to role. Okay, so now, role is the patterns of behavior expected of someone because of their status in society. So, my role as a teacher, right? You expect me to behave in a mature manner, right? Not to be flippant with my language, not to be rude, not to be, like all these negative things. I'm supposed to be the role model and show you positive attitudes and behaviors, right? Why? Because I'm the teacher, right? But you don't necessarily expect that of, say, an adult. If let's say I lose my job as a teacher and then become a street cleaner. A society doesn't look to street cleaners. I mean, no offense, and street cleaners are great people and great individuals, and doing jobs that they're willing to do jobs that many of us are not willing to do, right? But you don't look to them for to say show leadership skills, all right, or show leadership, or be a role model of good behavior, right? So different patterns of behavior expected based on your status. So my role as a teacher, you expect me to behave a certain way, right? But if let's say I'm in my late 30s or mid 30s, and I all of a sudden become a DJ promoter, right? I'm a nightclub promoter. All of a sudden, same person, right? But my behavior has changed. Why? Because of my role, my expected behavior as a nightclub promoter. I'm like, oh yeah, let's have fun, let's all go party, blah, 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 whatever, right? But would you expect a teacher to behave the same way as a nightclub promoter? No, right? So there's a difference there. Can be the same person, same gender, same age, same social economic background, but the role that the person plays, that role is associated with a certain set of behaviors, okay? Social institutions, we can just skip that. So the idea is that, remember we studied this in chapter 1, the various institutions in society, family, school, the legal system, even your religious systems, right? All these have their own sets of norms and values. So each of these settings, they call them social institutions. So within your family, you can act a certain way, right? So your dad or your mom as an employee will act a certain way. But then come back home, he or she takes on the role of a parent, different way, right? He or she can ask you to do house chores because you guys are children. So the status at home is your children, they are parents. But they cannot take their role as parent and translate that into their workspace. They cannot just ask a colleague, hey, pick up the trash, hey, wash the dishes, hey, go to bed now, whatever, right? They can't do that. Why? Because different setting, okay? And each of those settings are called social institutions, okay? Likewise, my role here as a teacher in this school setting, in the school system, which is an institution in and of itself, I can translate that to other settings, okay? Social identity, now this is important. This is who you are or who you think you are, who you perceive to be, okay? Individuals' perception of themselves based partly on ideas about how others see them. So it's how others see you, how you see yourself. It's a whole smorgasbord. So all those perceptions of who you are makes up your identity. My identity to you is based on one thing only, right? That is teacher. That's all I am to you. I'm not your friend, I'm not your parent, I'm not your gaming buddy, none of that. my identity to you. So you see me as a teacher, but guess what? That is part of my identity. Okay. But then at the same time, for my managers, I'm an employee or a team member for them, right? For the company, this other company I'm working for, I'm the face of that company. I'm the face and the voice of that company. I go out there in the media, I represent the company, right? So I'm a spokesperson of sorts, right? To my parents, I'm different, right? I am their child. To my siblings, I'm different. To my nephews and nieces, I'm their uncle. I'm expected to give them money for Chinese New Year or whatever. Not really, but yeah, sometimes. Okay, so all these things can make up your identity, okay, as individuals. So your personal identity as a student, as a teenage boy, teenage girl, as a child, or if you've got leadership positions, you are part of a drama group and you're the leader there, great, or you're a gamer and you're a really good gamer and people respect you, right? All these can be part of your identity, okay? So it's rare, very rare that you only have just one part to your identity, okay? Our identities are complex, they are multifaceted, meaning there are many parts to it, and more importantly, know this, they change, okay? They change over time. As you grow older, you become a college student, you've got different identity, people see you differently. You may become more exertive, you may become more timid, whatever it may be. Okay, then as you transition into the working world, same thing. Okay, maybe your identity in the eyes of your parents may stay the same for the rest of your life. They might still treat you like babies, maybe, but it changes over time. Okay, so know that important concept of your identity. Okay. So like, for example, like those who like to flaunt their global travels, right? That was part of their identity. Instagram influencer, all that. Well, guess what? Now you're shunned, or now they are shunned. Don't travel. Why? Because the norm now, the expected behavior now is to stay at home, right? If you suddenly post an Instagram picture of your travels, people immediately think, did it happen before the lockdown, or is this recent? If it's recent, why are you traveling now? Stay at home. If in a group setting now, why are you in a group setting now? You shouldn't be posting pictures like this, right? Well, back then you're seen as higher status, right? Very different setting that we're in right now. Okay, and of course, your gender has a big role to play as well. Now, the roles and expectations associated with being male or female, right? In many societies, let me just pull this back up. Our gender that's at the bottom. Okay. Many societies, especially conservative ones, females expected to be the genteel race, the gentle ones, right? Don't raise your voice, don't run about, don't partake in physical sports, don't come in all sweaty, must look presentable, must be soft-spoken, blah, blah, blah. All those stereotypes, right? Although men, don't cry, be a man, stand up, go and fight for yourself, be hyperactive, right? Show physical strength, all those stereotypes play into some of these gender roles. Okay, so your identity, your role can be determined by your gender, by your age, by the setting or the institution that you're in right now. Okay, very complex. Okay, so know this. Then last but not least, I don't have this up on the screen, but I'll take a picture of it right now and try to pull it up on the screen right now. Give me 30 seconds. Hopefully I'll be that quick. Edit this, crop it down. Okay, know these definitions, okay? Okay, the definition of stereotype, that'll be on page 50 for those of you who have your textbooks. Okay, the attributes that people think, often wrongly, in or characterize of a group. Okay. Let me just pull this up and then we can end with this. Okay. Let me just pull this up on the email. Okay, so know how these terms are used. Yeah, they tend to be used, the term stereotype tends to be used in the negative. Okay, almost here. I'm trying to pull this up now. Okay, this is the definition of stereotype. Okay, the attributes that people think, often wrongly, okay, to characterize a group. Okay, so there are so many stereotypes and they're often negative, right? Oh, Asians are good at math, or women can't drive, or men cannot multitask, whatever, right? All these different stereotypes about a physical, or but actually more often than not is the behaviors, okay? Right, so these are often used in the negative, okay? Attributes that people think to characterize a group, okay? So that's another important definition. So the point here is get familiar with all these definitions, and you have to sprinkle them across your exam answers, okay? All right, before we go, just to wrap this up, just to be clear, we do not have any more questions from the March quiz, correct? If you have any more questions from the mark scheme, which you're supposed to have gone through on your own, please let me know in the comments now. Otherwise, you can WhatsApp me later. I'll leave this on for another couple of minutes. And hopefully you've got no more questions, okay? Otherwise, if you're good, you can just write in the comments, say, I understood today's lesson. Thank you very much, Mr. Han. Bye. That's it. I understood today's lesson. Thank you very much. Bye. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Han. Bye. Okay? Just write that in the comments if you're okay. Otherwise, make sure you read in advance Unit 2, okay? If you've got any questions, or if there's something that we missed from our last class via Zoom, when we went through your March tests, question 1, paper 1, please let me know and I'll go over it with you now, okay? Okay, thank you, Ray. Have a good day. Okay, thank you, Renu. Thank you, Laiba. Thank you, Sherwin. Thank you, Winning. Thank you, Clarence. Thank you, Naomi. All right. Okay, we'll end today's lesson then. Thanks. Have a good day. Stay safe.